How are we feeling? Good, a little bit better? Okay, great. How was the last session? Awesome. Are we ready for part two? Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're getting ready to transition to our next panel, which is called Passion to Portfolio. That sounds interesting, right? Okay, so our panelist is going to talk to us and share a little bit of nuggets and tips on how to turn your hobbies and passions into successful businesses. Okay, so to get started, we're going to bring in our fabulous moderator, Pastor Nike Israel Bolariwa, to the stage. We'll wait for her to, take her time. Let's give her another hand. Awesome. Next, now we're going to introduce our wonderful panelists. So I'm going to start with Miss Shile Bello. Thank you, Shile, for joining us. And next, we're going to welcome our other panelist, Miss Irene Dele Adejuma. Sorry.
Hope you had a wonderful lunch. Thank you so much. It's good to see you all back again. And we had a fantastic time at the first session. And I'd like to welcome everyone to our second session that is titled Passion to Portfolio. And as you know, in the first session, we talked about how to build your brand and also the platform. And now we're going to take it a step further to talk to ladies who have actually taken those passions that we talked about, that they've identified as their brand, and how they've been able to build a business out of it. And I'd like to thank Shile for coming, and also to thank Irene for being here as well. So ladies, just a quick reminder, we do have our conference app that's working beautifully, and it's our first time doing this, and we're daring to dream. So you can see a lot of firsts in what we're doing this year. And we thank God that, we might have some teething problems, but they're all falling into place. So what we want to do right now is we'd like to, when everyone came to ask their questions, that was fantastic. It's good for us to connect. But you might just have one or two people who maybe for one thing or the other, you're busy, but you hear something or you need to go out. You can actually send your questions on the app, and I'll be able to pick it up and I'll be able to ask that question. So you either come to the microphone or please download the app if you haven't, and you should be able to engage with us as well. So let me start off by with Shile, and give us about a 5-minute talk about who you are, what your passion is that led you to start your business. And we're not just looking at the passion to business. We call this passion to portfolio because when you started the business and where the business is now is different in terms of you've actually increased the portfolio of services you provide. So starting with a small idea and being able to build upon it, would love to hear that.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This is exciting. Hello, everyone. My name is Shile Bello, like the video said. That video was so cute. My name is Shile Bello. I am the founder and lead planner at RE Affairs. It's a wedding planning firm in the DC area. My passion, I like to say, I think the right thing to say is that my passion was planning, but for me, it didn't necessarily start out that way. My passion was more serving. I just really liked the idea of serving. I just had a passion to serve in whatever capacity that was available to me. And so when I started, it really came out of the passion of serving led me to planning and led me to start to do what I'm doing right now. I was straight out of college. I didn't have anything to do with my time. I was trying to get into school. And when I was trying to get into school, I had some free time. And one thing I would say that really stands out for people who are here that you might be identifying some of your dreams and your passions is to serve your gift. Serve your gift. That's one thing I would say. If you take nothing away, serve your gift. Because for me, the opportunity to serve my gift led me to realizing what I'm doing right now. So I simply reached out to someone that worked at my church at the time, and I said, hey, I'm out of college. I ain't got nothing to do. I could be here and I could serve. And he said, okay, sure. That was that. And then he called me up one day. He said, are you busy? I said, no, I told you I have nothing to do. And then he said, come meet me at this place at this time. Drove to the venue. It happened to be the Hilton BWI Hotel. And I got there and he was like, I was just sitting in a meeting, and my church was planning a gala, and this was like 12 years ago, and I pretty much sat in the meeting, and that's kind of how it started. He called me up for events all the time when he had something to plan. He always called me to help out. So I never thought I could do this. I never even planned on doing this, but somehow the ability to serve and develop that gift came from a place of service. And so the more I served, the more I realized that, I actually do like this thing called planning. And I gravitated towards that. And so through the years, the business has grown. It's exciting. What God has just been doing through the business. I've started out doing just weddings. Well, first of all, events, then weddings, and now I'm a teacher. So that's really how the progression of the business has been. And it's interesting because when I started out initially in school, I wanted to be a professor. That was my life's goal, to be a professor. I wanted to be a professor of sociology. It didn't really work out. I was like, okay, I'm going to study English. And so when I was applying for my MFA so I can continue on in that progression, that's when I stopped that. And I did a year in that, and I decided to go full-time into this. And it's interesting because sometimes we have certain passions that we push to the side, and we think it's nothing because, that was just a dream. But it's interesting how now, 8 years later, 7 years later, how that passion to teach somehow came back up in this phase of my life. And so now I'm a mentor. I have a mentoring program. Now I teach with the Wedding Planning Institute. So it's just exciting to see how God just allows us to have desires. But when we pursue those desires, when we serve those desires, when we work at it, it can actually become something more. So
Excellent. Fantastic. Wow. I didn't even know about the teaching, so looking forward to engaging some more on that. That's nice. So, Irene, talk to us. So, you have so much going on. Where did it all start?
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me? No, it's off. Hello. Okay, so with mine, I guess right out of high school, I was always that girl that I would tell my friends that I'm gonna have a business, I'll tell them, but I did not know what business I was going to do. So I honestly went to college, I was lost. I was more doing what my parents wanted me to do. And they wanted me to go into, medical school. They wanted me to be a medical doctor. And my first year, I was like, I hate biology, I hate chemistry. This is not me. Like, honestly, I can't even see somebody bleeding and not cry, or not run away from blood. So this is not me. I'll go back to my parents, and they're like, oh, no, you can do this. They keep praying. I'll pray for you. You're going to be a great doctor. And I'm like, no, I don't like this. So I think my second semester, I quit the program. I didn't tell my parents. Luckily for me, I'm the last out of 5 kids, so they had already had the older ones, in the medical field or, pharmacy, whatever. So I think they were a little bit lenient with me. So I quit the program and I went into sociology, government. I still did not really love it, but I had to choose a major at some point. So I went ahead and did that. I got out of college and I got a nice job, that, would travel, take me to Vegas. Is it me? Okay, is it better? Okay. So, but I still did not like this 9 to 5. But like I said, I knew I was going to have a business, but I thought my business was going to be... I thought my business was going to be something that I have to invent out of nowhere. I didn't know that it was going to be things that I simply love, enjoy doing for fun. So I remember then I would happily do fruit trays for family events. I'll do it for friends, And then people would ask, this is nice. How much is this? And I'm like, no clue, but I'll do it for you. And eventually I was like, I can actually start making money off of this fruit carvings. And, and for me, I think I found out that it was my passion because I found out that I could make money off of it, and I got really great at doing that because I would have people tell me what their theme of their event was going to be. So that would challenge me to do something different, something new all the time. I also really enjoy doing makeup. growing up. Like even in high school, I was buying MAC, I was buying like department store makeup. You know how like high school you're buying clothes and shoes. I'm going to buy the expensive makeup. And I didn't mind using it, you know, during fashion shows and giving it to people to use. Like I'll volunteer myself in college throughout. Like I said, I didn't know that was something that I would be doing, you know, as a business. So in 2011, I quit my job, and I'm like, I'm going into this full time. It was, I think the funny thing is, after I quit my job, I spoke with somebody over the phone, and if I had not turned in my resignation letter by then, I probably wouldn't have done that, because the person was like, you're gonna quit your job for fruits? Just fruits, cutting fruits, you know? And sometimes how people talk can actually, you know, kind of distract you from going forward. But I was glad I had already, you know, done all that steps, and I could not go back and say, hey, give me my letter back. I'm working, you know. But that's pretty much how it started. And with the makeup, as a makeup artist, I also felt like some of the products were not what I wanted. Like some products would look ashy on me, on dark-skinned people. So I decided to start my own makeup line.
Interesting, fantastic. Wow, so we have, thank you. No problem. You can hold it. You can just hold it. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, like we said before, all through I'll be looking to see what our questions are. And I'm being told also that we may have some questions coming in from social media. So feel free to send something, well, at least even if it's on our Instagram or Facebook page, and we'll be able to connect with you. So let's now talk about, you know, we talked about, in the earlier session, we just talked about the importance of branding. Now, I know you're not the first person that I've heard of that does makeup. I've not heard of a lot of people doing the fruit, but I do know that we have a lot of people doing events. You know, when people want to go, first of all, start that business, and they've identified a passion. I think one of the voices in a lot of people's head is, there's somebody doing this already. There's somebody who is providing this service. It's a passion. Can I really do this as a business? You know, or what you would call a side hustle. You know, at what point can you say that although I served, at a point I was passionate enough to believe that although we may have 40, 50, especially in the DMV area, event planners, there's room for my business. You know, I feel that for a lot of people, it might be making hair, it could be whatever. You know, you have a brand, you're known for something. How do you actually determine if, is this something I should really go into full time? Can everybody afford to quit their jobs and go into this? Or at some point, is there a need to address your own challenges, or, you know, do you just jump into it or take time out or build up on it? I'd like to hear some of your perspectives.
All right, that's a good question. So I'll speak from my perspective. When I started out, when I decided, well, I didn't quite decide I wanted to do it, but when I felt like God was like, you're gonna do this thing, I was like, okay, sure. When I decided I was gonna do it, the first thing I did was I got training. So a lot of times we have passions, and sometimes our passions are something that we already know we're good at, but sometimes it's just something you love to do. Like she said, I just love makeup. But you might not be good at makeup like myself. I'm actually really terrible at makeup. So you might be that person, you love to do it, but you're not good at it, but you just feel like there's just something in this industry for me. I would say get education. Get educated and find out if this is really what you want to do. Find out if maybe there's a sector, because you might start out, I mean, there are people, when people meet with me for a mentorship, I talk to the fact that there's so many different aspects of wedding planning. There's not just weddings. There are events, there are conferences, there are seminars, there's so many things you can do. So when you have a passion for something, get educated, because when I looked online when I was going to start, and courses were like thousands of dollars. I was like, I don't have money. I need something cheap. But thankfully, I found courses that were more affordable, and I took them on weekday evenings. I took them courses just to make sure I understood you can be excited about something, but just to make sure I understood it. I think also something that's really important, like she said about talking to people. The truth is, when you're dreaming, a lot of times, when you sleep, most times is when you dream. And when you're dreaming, you're alone. I mean, you might see other people in your dream, but for the most part, there are no like we were in the dream together. And no, you're by yourself. And when you wake up from a dream, have you ever told someone your dream and you're like, man, this happened, and they're like, don't worry about it was just a dream? Has that ever happened to anyone? Yeah, and so sometimes when we discuss our dreams with people, we could have that same reaction. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people, because you could tell your mom about, especially African moms, you tell your mom you had a dream, she'll be like, no, no one is going to die, don't worry, it was just a dream. But when you discuss your dreams with people, you have to be careful who you discuss it with, because they weren't in that dream with you. To them, it could be just a dream, but for you, it's something that you really believe in. And so when I started out, one of the things that I try to do, I didn't do it intentionally, but I think it was something that helped me, was that I didn't discuss it with too many people. I discussed it with a few people, but that helped me really figure out this is what I want to do. Because it didn't make sense. Like she said, there's so many people doing it, but like, are you sure this is something you want to do? So I think it's important to get education, because you want to know the ins and outs of what you're getting yourself into, so you count your costs before you do it. And also, be careful who you share that dream with. I think it's normal that when you're starting out in any industry, I mean, no one is starting out in an industry that doesn't exist. I think for the most part, at least, whatever you are doing, someone else is doing it. I think it's about really figuring out, again, once you get education, you will help yourself understand where you find yourself in the midst of everything. But I think also is remembering that, here's my analogy, McDonald's. Burger King. When I used to travel to America as a kid, McDonald's and Burger King, they were almost beside each other, most of the time. And the reason I know that is because we're 5 kids. Half of us always wanted Burger King. The other half wanted McDonald's. If you were like me, you like fries from one, but the burger from the other one. So my parents were very gracious, and they would do the drive and make sure that the kids got what they wanted. And so why do I bring that example up? People can thrive. We can all thrive in any industry that we are in. Burger King being beside McDonald's doesn't mean that McDonald's is not going to do well, doesn't mean that Burger King is not going to do well. AT&T, T-Mobile, you drive into a shopping complex. They're 2 beside each other. But people will go where they want to go. There is always someone that's waiting for what you have. There is someone that's waiting for what you have. So don't discredit yourself. The fact that you have that desire to do it, that means that there's someone that, they might not even be born yet, but there's someone that's going to come to you. There's someone that's going to say, yes, there are these other people that, sell hair, but I do want something about her hair. There's something about it I like. So never discount yourself, because you have a dream, you have a passion. You can be successful. 10 other people can be successful. 100 people. Sometimes I think it's crazy. You drive into a place and you're like, how does someone just open up a restaurant here? There's so many of them. Yeah. But they know that they have something to offer. And so it's not about looking at what everybody has, but it's about looking inwards and saying, what do I have to offer? And focus on that.
Right. Fantastic. Fantastic. In this season of Dare to Dream, it's time for us to begin to look inwardly. When we talked about brands and, Irene, I like what you said about that period of not being clear and things being very, very fuzzy. When we talk about purpose, when we talk about passion, did you feel you knew your purpose and then you started your business, or you identified your passion, started a business, and then you know your purpose? Does one lead to the other? Did you feel it was, or were you even motivated by any of that? Was it really just you knowing, I can do something and this is a passion, and through that you found out a whole lot more about other things that are inside of you?
Of course. I always tell people that if you're thinking about doing anything, you have to start first before you start thinking about, the money, and, at least start with research. Like there's Google, like that's free for you. Research, look at other people who are doing it, talk to them, so towards, like, when you start, something else will come. You always, like, what I know now, I didn't know, a lot of it. And now, sometimes I'll meet people who train people to, let's say, become an artist.
Right.
And they have all the steps, or, even me in this industry, like, because having a cosmetic brand. And like recently I was talking to a lady and she was like, yeah, you should do this. This is what I tell my clients to do and that. And I'm like, I had to make all these mistakes to learn this, but now I'm here. I'm still, I know what I'm doing now, but piggyback on what Shile first said, like, when you're, if you're passionate about something, or if you want to start a business, first of all, you need to know that this is actually what you want. to
Right.
do.
Right.
And not because you've seen somebody doing great at what they're doing. This person sells hair and they're doing a good job, and I also want to start hair selling. You know, that doesn't work. It does not work. You have to first be passionate about it. It has to be in you. If you're passionate and you really like it, nothing is going to stop you. Do you know how many times I'm like, if I really want to do this, cosmetic line, it's challenging. It's a lot. But then I remember the dream that I had. I honestly had a real dream. I remember my first packaging, my first product, that the sample that I got, I was so nervous. I was like, I'm about to send this amount of money to this manufacturer. I'm about to, do all of this. And God, is this really what you want me to do? I mean, I know I want to do this, So what I did, it sounds like fairy tale. I literally put the makeup palette under my pillow and I went to bed. Mm-hmm. And I prayed. Mm-hmm. And in my dream, I saw a lot of people. I was in a bus with a lot of people, and we were going from, I don't remember, from one place to another. And everybody was dressed up. They were going to go see some people speak. And then while I was in that bus, another bus drove right next to us. And it had a big picture of me there about a conference that people were coming to see me. So I saw them, pointing at that bus, like, oh, we're excited, we can't wait to see this lady. So I got up and I was like, they're like, oh, that's you, And I was going there to empower people and then also talk about my makeup line and talk about makeup. So every time I want to give up, this is what I think of. I'm like, God, you're in this. And recently, I don't want to call it rebranding, but I knew what I was doing. I knew the product I wanted to manufacture. I knew everything I wanted to do.
Right.
And I was still separating my personal, like my true self from my brand. And the type of person that I am is, if you're my friend or if you tell me about a vision or a dream that you want to accomplish, just know that every time I see you, I'm going to bother you about that. Okay. I love to empower people. I love to empower my friends. I love to empower people that I don't know. Once I know that you're in to do something, I'm giving you ideas and I'm encouraging people. So I didn't know I could bring that together.
Right.
And add that as my brand. That Omola Cosmetics, we're here to empower people to dream big and elevate their life.
So you actually linked your cosmetic to a completely. It's almost like you had your fruit business, you had your cosmetic business, and then now you were able to link a speaking and empowerment and women's empowerment even into that through the business.
Exactly. Just linking and just letting people know that you can do this once you're dreaming. If you're dreaming about it, if this is your passion, there's nothing I always say, there's a provision. Like once you have the vision, God is going to provide. Once you know that this is what I want to do, he's going to send somebody in. He's going to send money. He's going to send different things. You can accomplish it. As long as it's your passion and as long as you believe in it, you can do it.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. We have a question that came out on the app, and I'm looking out in case anybody has a question. Oh, okay. And then we'll take the app question.
So I really wanted just to add to what she said. Sorry,
on?
can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Just to add to what she said and to kind of encourage somebody. I remember when I was going to Nigeria and I had quit my job and I didn't have any job and I was looking for a job for a year. And I couldn't find a job for a year. And I was sitting there thinking, God, I haven't earned an income for a whole year. This is ridiculous now. And my friends kept saying to me, why don't you go into fashion? You're so good at it. Every time we see your clothes, we want the stuff you're wearing. And I said, there are too many people that do fashion. Everyone is a personal stylist. Everyone is a personal shopper. I don't want to be a personal stylist because everybody else was doing it in Lagos. And she was like, it doesn't matter, Cynthia. Somebody will want what you have. And she was like, you know what? And I was like, okay, how do I start? So just to encourage somebody, it's almost like we're looking for the big start. How do you start? You need money to start. I feel like God has placed what you need in front of you and in your hands. So I had to sit down and think when they said to me, start, how do I start? And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to spend any money when I'm not making any money. So she was like, okay, my friend said to me, let's go through your closet. You have a lot of clothes that have price tags that you haven't worn in years. And I was like, I don't know who's going to want to buy clothes that I have price tags, but I bought them for myself. She was like, it doesn't matter. Pull them out. So I pulled about 3 of them, and I remember there was a wedding I was supposed to go for. I didn't end up going. And usually what I do is, so I realized that in Nigeria, a lot of people like material stuff, so designer stuff. So what I do is that I buy them at 80, 90% off, and then I sell them. So a dress that can be $5,000, I can get it for you at 90% off. And then obviously I'll add my own profit on it. So I remember this particular dress was about maybe $3,000, and I ended up buying it about maybe $300. And I pulled out the dresses and 2 other dresses from my closet and a purse. And she was like, I'll invite some friends over. And then she invited her friends over. The girl saw the dress. She was like, oh my God, I'm taking this. Stunning. She was like, how much is the dress? I wanted to say $700 because I thought I put it out from my closet. My friend just tapped me and said $2,000. And I looked at her thinking, who's going to buy this dress for $2,000? And the friend said, seriously, give me a discount. She said, okay, this dress is $5,000. In fact, let me open this up on the website for you to see. So she opened it and she was like, okay, no problem, 1.5, deal. Literally, by the time I was done, she sold 3 dresses and the purse for me, and they gave me cash of $3,300 cash. So just to say this as an encouragement, truly speaking, you have it in you. Like she said, just because 1 or 2, 3 people are doing it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. And the truth is that where do you start from? Look at what you have with you. Start from where you are. We always feel like a big break or something big is going to come, but it's right there in front of you.
Thank you.
Truly speaking, if it's in your passion and you have it in you, God will bring the people and would help you sell that product.
Thank
So
you.
a lot of times, I don't even need to say anything. Like, I don't even advertise myself. But when I go out, people say to me, oh my God, I love your dress. Can I get it? Sure. I'll
Yep.
buy it at 80% and then I'll bring it to you. And literally, that's what I started doing. And trust me, I can only give God the glory and thank God for people who encouraged me
Amen.
to start. Because if I didn't have
Yep.
them, I wouldn't know what.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that helps me with the question. We had a question on the app that says, what if you get a prophetic word about a business, but you don't know how to start? And I think, although that's part of there are other things we're going to be talking about, but I think just to let you know that that's where some of this is coming from. You're going to be discussing, how do you start from where you are? How do you start from what you have? How do you start with the people that you have, the relationships that you have? So that's the second question. The second one was on the app was, how do I turn my hobby into a money-making business? I don't know how to start. So I see that a lot of us have dreams. God is saying, dare to dream. And you have ideas, you have visions. We're all in this area where we can all hear stuff going on within the economy, and we're all like, diversify. Let me have something. I just want to rely. So we're at that point of starting. So Shirley has talked about how, she was invited to a serving, and you discovered that's what you wanted to do. But I have 2 questions. How did you get your first client? Your very first client? Your first client may not have been paid. So, good if it was, good. And by the time you got the first client, had you, quote unquote, started the business? In other words, had you registered? Did you have a business card? Did you have a website? Did you have all these things that people would say? Where were you when that first client came, and how did they come?
Great question. But before I answer, Cynthia, could you help me sell my shoes, girl? I need to make some money from these shoes. So my first client, that's an interesting story, because I think that sometimes, again, sometimes you see someone and they're just doing it and you think, oh my gosh, they just knew. But honestly, when God told me this is what, for some people, God might not tell you. You just might have something. So don't think that God has to tell you that you have to do this, because sometimes God is just looking like, girl, you better move. Like he doesn't have to tell you. But if God does tell you to do something, I think that sometimes fear is natural. I was afraid. I was like, I don't think I can do this. And I didn't have plans to do it. You have to understand, for me, I actually wanted to be a professor. I wanted to be in school. I had my plans. But once I felt like this was something God was telling me to do, I fought it. For a while, I wasn't sure. And so my first thing was, okay, who's gonna pay me to plan their wedding? That's all I said in my heart. Again, you don't talk, you're like, God, please, nobody's gonna pay me for this. So I started getting calls at random, seriously at random. A friend of mine, it was a guy, he was planning his wedding, his wife was in med school, she couldn't be bothered. And he called me every other day, so this is happening. I'm like, why are you calling me? He's like, I just feel like you can help me. I'm like, why? left that alone. And then I met this person at my church, and she said, oh, my friend's wedding planner traveled out of the country and is not coming back. I was like, oh, that's so sad. And she's like, yeah, so I told her to call you. I'm like, what? At this point, I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't said anything to anyone. So I thought that was strange. Eventually, long story. It's a long story, but I'm just going to cut it short. Eventually, she introduced me to this person. The person, I said to her, I'm so sorry that my friend told you I could do this, but I'm not a wedding planner. I've never planned a wedding before. It's just not something that I've done. And she's like, look, my wedding is a few months away. I just need help. I said, okay, I'll help you. You don't have to pay me, though, because I haven't done this before. So in case it doesn't work out, then you can't hold me liable for anything. And she's like, sure. So that's how we started planning. And I did her wedding. It was amazing. And her parents actually gave me a check. So it wasn't supposed to be paid, but her parents gave me a $1,500 check. And I was so happy. In fact, I still have the check because they wrote the wrong name, because they wrote it in my business name, but I hadn't registered the business. So I had to go meet them. I'm like, yeah, so could you put this in my personal name? Because I actually don't have the business registered. But I remember she gave me a gift. So, of course, when that was happening, I started to talk with my sister-in-law, my boyfriend's sister, who's not my husband. I started to talk with her about what I wanted to do. So she's like, let's come up with a name. And so we thought, and we came up with RAE Affairs. And I remember I had told her the name, but I think she thought it was REA, so she made me this gift. And so she was like, you should register this business, and then she gave me this gift that had REA. I still have the folder, but I can't, take it out anywhere, but I still have it. And so that's kind of how it started. And so for me, it was something I was almost pushed into, and it's interesting because after her wedding, I got 3 other people that just reached out to me, again, organically, not really sure how it happened. So at that point, that's when, after I did her wedding, I quit my job soon after that. So for some people, starting might be you just making again, for me, it was still serving the gift and just saying, okay, I'm going to help someone, because you also want to have a place where you can practice your gift. For me, planning and doing stuff for my church for so many years gave me an opportunity to practice my gift, gave me an opportunity to learn about timelines, to learn all those different things. So if you have a place you can volunteer, it doesn't have to be in a church. If you really you want to do something with elderly people, you don't know what it is, reach out to your community and see if maybe elderly people need help with shopping for groceries or something. Give yourself the opportunity to be in that same space with them, to serve your gift, and so to really know what you want, what it is that you want to do. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, wow. Thank you very much, Shirley. There was a question that came from the app, and I wanted to direct it to you, Irene. It says, how do you balance your business, being a mom, a wife? Do you sometimes feel like you're giving up too much and you feel guilty? In other words, for you to really do that business in that period of time, it's going to take a lot out of you. So basically, when you have competing priorities, how do you manage your responsibilities? How do you get that done? And how do you deal with guilt when you feel something else is suffering from it?
In terms of guilt, I just try to brush it off. Like, these kids, they're going to be all right. If you need something, I'm going to have the money to provide for you, eventually. But I still take time out. And, when I'm traveling, at some point, my business had me traveling a lot. I carry my kids with me. We'll go to Ghana and Nigeria for 3 months, and I'll make sure, we have a nanny.
How many people are able to do that, though? Would you
if
you
you're
say,
really,
that's a good point. But then I'm wondering, there's some people like, ooh, lucky you, man, because it can be like, how do you quit your job and take your children to Nigeria and everything still? So it might give perception that, could it be,
I didn't start traveling right away.
Thank you.
I did not, just do it right away. It's just when my business got better and I got to that point that I knew that it's either I do this or my business is going to collapse, I have to do that. I have to take my kids with me. It was expensive, but then by the time I calculate how much I'm going to make when I come back, your kids, you guys are going to be okay. You come with me. I've had nannies in the past, but right now I don't. And I actually don't think I need one, because I take my kids to school at 6:30 a.m. and I they get back home at 6 p.m. So I make sure that I get so much done. Once they get home, my computer is shut. I play with them, they eat their food, we have fun. 8:30, I train them, they know that if you're in your bed, if you're gonna sleep, if you're not gonna sleep, that's fine. But you're gonna be in your bed at 8:30, and you're not gonna call me because that's when I need to get my work done, or it's me and hubby time. So you're not gonna call me. So I think it's also how you train your kids for them to understand this is, your life. I still take time out for them, but I also let them understand that I'm working. I could take my kids to daycare at any time, 10 a.m., whatever, but just for me to be able to balance my own life, I tell my husband, we're both leaving home at the same time. We're going to help each other. We're going to shower the kids together, get them. As you're leaving for work, I'm also, though I work from home, I'm not just at home. You have to be disciplined, honestly, and I think that's what it is, because sometimes I'm like, dang, I want to sleep some more, but I'm like, if my husband leave home and I don't get myself ready, I'm going to drag, showering the kids, getting them ready, and we're probably not going to get to school until 10 or 9, and that's going to eat out of my time. So I think it's more of like time management, right, and being very disciplined with what you have to, because everything you do during the day is going to help you, get to your goal. So don't push things, just manage your time and get things.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Speak on that for a little bit.
Yep.
I do think, I think for me, I have 2 kids, and I think it's understanding the season that you're in. When I started my business, I was single. Well, I had a boyfriend, but I was single. And I quit my job, but I quit my job because I knew I lived with my mom. She's not gonna kick me out if I don't pay anything. She's still gonna take care of me. So I think that I was in a different place in my life. And so sometimes we're in different places, and I think it's about really realizing where am I right now, and what can I do? Because we have to ask ourselves, and that's why it's important to count the cost before you go into anything. So when you have an understanding that, okay, for me, my weekends are usually not mine. I have to be out almost every weekend working. You have to count the cost and ask yourself, is this something that I can really do based on what it is requiring of me? And I think that sometimes as women, we don't have to be moms. As women, sometimes we put a lot of guilt on ourselves for it was like we have to do this, we want to be successful, but we also feel guilty about being successful because we have all these other things that are competing for our attention. And I think the guilt is normal. I think it's just understanding that as you transition in different phases of your life, when I got married, it was different. When I started having kids, and then I had 2 kids, I'm like, wait, this is very different. But when you start to transition, you have to make adjustments. You have to make adjustments in your life based on where you are. Because if you don't make adjustments, you could crash and burn. If you don't make adjustments, something is going to suffer. And I believe that if God has put something on your heart to do, He's giving you the capacity to do it. But you have to also make sure that you're not overextending yourself, or you're not in line with what He's telling you to do. And so when you get to a season, I truly believe, when I had 1 child, I had the grace for 1. Now that I have 2, I just tell myself, I have the grace for it. Right. But I also have to adjust and be mindful, and not so that way I'm allowing myself to do what it is that I'm able to do, and not doing other things outside of that. So you have to be mindful.
Yeah,
Can I
understand
something real quick
okay.
About that? Like I said, I used to travel a lot, but now I know that next year my first kid is gonna start regular school, and I can't be pulling him out. And so late last year, I started working on focusing on the U.S. market. And that's what I've been working on. Like right now, I'm so focused, like getting U.S. clients. And thank God I did what I did back there in Nigeria and Ghana then, because now, yes, my cosmetic is known, in most of the cities over there. But I know that next year I cannot just pull my kids out of school. I can't do that. So now I'm here and I'm focused. And so you're right about everything being in season. But once you have the instinct that, this is what I need to be doing now, and you know that it aligns with who you are at that moment, you have to do it. Because like she said, once you have kids or you have this, you can't do this the next year. Yep. So if you have to do it this year, you do it now.
It's taking advantage of the time that you're in. That's a good point. I got 1 or 2 questions from WhatsApp, but I feel I'm losing everyone. So I'm going to pause and take the questions that come through the mic, because I wanted to have some engagement. But let me ask a question. How many people here are business owners? Oh, wow. That's a lot of people. How many people here have a business how many people haven't started their business, but part of your dare to dream is you want to start a business next year? Can I see it higher? You haven't started at all. That's quite a lot of people. Okay, all right. So let's do some instant polls amongst us and make this interesting. So how many people have started a business, when I say business owners, that currently live through their business? That means they do the business 100%. That's where all of their income comes from. And how many of those businesses are less than 5 years old? Can I see your hands clearly? Less than 5 years old. But you pay all your bills through that business, everything, and your rent and all that. Okay? Okay? All right. That's good. Okay. Fantastic. So I wanted to take a quick poll to see where everyone's business was at and level of maturity and some of the needs, very good, of some of our businesses, because somebody said, being a young entrepreneur, how do you handle unsupportive family and friends? And what keeps you motivated? So I wanted to speak to those who have started their businesses maybe less than 5 years. Before I take the panelists, if you want to step up and tell us, what has been your biggest challenge that you found when you're starting? Yes.
I'm short. Hi.
Yes, please hold it.
My name is Adiola, and my business is actually turned 7 years in June. So but I just wanted to share, I moved in with my parents when I started my business. And I think the biggest challenge was having my parents understand that I'm working. It's the constant knocking on the door, interrupting, and I'm working. So that was the biggest challenge I think I had with family members, was not understanding that my 9 to 5, even though it's from home, it's still a 9 to 5, and you need to respect my time. So it was me having to figure out how to set boundaries without being disrespectful to my how to set boundaries. And that was the challenge for the first 3 years when I moved home, because I worked from home and lived with my parents, because I was like, I need to make money. I can't pay rent living on my own. I think that was my biggest challenge, was boundary setting and letting people know I'm working for myself, but I'm still trying to make a living. It's still my 9 to 5.
That's interesting. So where you had to live with family, being able to get that respect. I mean, that question that came says, what keeps you motivated in times when you have unsupportive family and friends? Please be realistic and spiritual, please. And I think, real practical tools. So setting boundaries, because I think at times you need to set boundaries for yourself. When you get the opportunity to work from home, initially there's something appealing. I remember when I just started working from home, I remember the first the first income that I got, I was still on my regular job when I got that income. Was bigger than what I was getting. What I got from that one job was more than what I got in a month. So I went, bought a new desk, bought, dividers, set up the home office. I was more in love with the home office than the actual, the sense of empowerment, my office. Down in the basement, my office, until after you finish 1 or 2 deals, and then you now look at the chair and say, okay, what do we do? I don't want to go downstairs. You want to sit on your bed and be sending emails. So you start to say, what do I need to do to position myself? I remember there were times when, although I was working for myself, I had to wake up early, take a shower, and dress up and go to the basement, because I needed to feel a sense of being professional on there, So I think those are some very critical things as well. I'm going to take 1 or 2 questions, but I just wanted to ask Olewa that the nature of your business, because it was so artistic, you obviously had a level of family support, to enable you to push and to step into those things. But especially for which one did you start first? Your food carving business or your makeup business?
So it's funny, I actually started both of them at the same time.
And I wanted to go so
I did. I wanted to start both. I started both of them at the same time. And both of them were, of course I started, so I was doing some stuff for free. My prices were low and everything. But I remember at some point, somebody talked me out of the makeup for a long time. They're like, oh, everybody's doing makeup. Why do you want to start a cosmetic line? Stop it, do just the fruit. And I just was focusing on just the fruit. But I felt like something was missing for a long time. And I was like, why am I listening to this person? Something is missing. So I went back to my business. And right now, I enjoy doing both. I mean, some people think that I've quit doing the fruit. I have not. I still do the fruit. It's just the makeup takes more time, so I put that out there, push that out there, the cosmetic brand, but I still do both of them.
Thank you. Okay. I'll take the next question.
Okay, my question is about, and I think you said your business grew organically. How do you know when to step up from being organic to actually pushing what you're doing? So I have a number of businesses actually, but the two I would say, I started my firm and it was organic. People came to me and did but it was still not making as much money as my regular job. So how to push past that. And then even when I said, okay, I'm going to quit my regular job and do that, I knew that I didn't have enough help to make it more, to be on the same level. And then for the music, I have all this, and I believe what Isare says, where he says you network across, not trying to move beyond where you're going, because the people around you are going to help you a lot. But where do you get to that point of, I'm past that stage, I want to move up?
So basically where in your business you're trying to scale up the business. Yeah. Okay, that was actually one of the questions that we're going to come to. But let us take it now, because I wanted to ask a follow-up question, another question before that, which is when you have multiple business ideas, when you have multiple opportunities, how do you determine which one do you take up? Especially when it looks as if, you know what, I need to hustle, I need to do something on the side, I can do makeup, I can do hair, I can draw, I can do marketing, I can provide a service, but I can also create a product. And even when you start in your business, how do you scale up to go into that portfolio level? To say, okay, I've been doing this business for 2 to 3 years. What else is inside it? What else can I bring out of it? How can I diversify? At what point did you feel that your business went through some of those periods?
Okay, I think it's a good question that you asked. I think that, first of all, I think it's important to note that you don't have to quit your job. You don't have to quit your job to be successful at a business. You could still run your business and still have a 9-to-5 job. Actually, there's an event designer that's been doing this for many years. And I was talking to her the other day, and she said she still has a job. I was like, wait, what? You still have a job? I was in shock because she does so many huge events. And so if you can manage both, go ahead and do that. But I think that you will get to a point, everybody gets to that point where they know that they need to make that move. So you have to get to that point to realize it. For my business, yes, it did grow organically initially, but my business is also one of those that referrals are a big thing. And so I do get a lot of referrals, but at some point, you can't sit and wait for those referrals all the time. And so I realized after a few years that I needed to start doing a lot more marketing. And so I know that the panel before this talked a lot about branding and all of that stuff, and they probably talked about social media. But I started to do advertising. I started to have people actually pay to put my business out there, because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm not making money, I don't want to spend money, but sometimes you have to spend money to make money. Sometimes it's just the way the game works. And so it's important that, at some point when you feel like you're not gaining traction, maybe you need to look at how am I getting my business out there, and if it requires you spending some money to do that, then do that. Of course, don't spend all your money trying to market, but if it requires you doing that, I think you should do that. Your next question was about how do you know? So I think sometimes the issue with us, if you're in the creative business, I'm a creative. The issue with us creatives is that we have ideas for days. Every other day we're like, ooh, I can do this. And especially when you're someone that, some people are very focused. They want to do one thing and that's it. But some people, because you can multitask. Don't you just love that word? I can multitask. I can do everything at the mediocre level, of course. But but you feel like you can multitask. And some people are gifted in that. And I think sometimes that's the danger. Because when you feel like you can do everything, you want to do everything. But I think it's important to pause and just be like, what do I need to do now? Some ideas you might have, you might say, okay, this is a 2-year goal. This is 0.2, this is 0.3. So it's not that you're neglecting those ideas, but you're realizing that this is what I need to do now to get to the next step. Titi said something about the fact that because she realized that she's going to enter into a phase of her life where she can't travel as much, so she started to make a decision to do something now. So I think we can have a lot of ideas, but it's about making sure that, and you also have to ask yourself, this idea gonna make me money? Because the blessings of God make rich and add no sorrow. No sorrow. So if it's not going to make you money, you need to really think about it and say, is this something that I want to invest my time doing? This, of course, if it's not something that has to do with nonprofit and all of that. But I think it's about just making sure that, is this right for me in this season? You not doing it right now doesn't mean that you won't be able to do it later. Because if you stretch yourself too thin, you might not be able to achieve anything at all, as opposed to focusing.
Excellent, excellent.
I think for me, about, how do you multitask or do both businesses. My fruit carving business is seasonal. Honestly, most of my clients are during the wedding period, a few weeks before Thanksgiving, a few weeks before Christmas, So I can't just rely on that. I enjoy doing that. Of course, I do get, corporate clients gifts right here and there, but my peak season is during the summer. So what do I do before then? My makeup business is all year round. And to be honest with you, this is how and that's why I still do both businesses. The makeup is what I'm going to retire on. I cannot be carving fruit at a certain point of my life. But once my brand picks up and is known all over the world, I know that with the makeup, I can be sleeping and making money. But with fruit carving, I can't be sleeping and making money. So I'm working on both of them right now, knowing that the fruit is what gives me money to spend right now, but the makeup, everything goes back into reinvesting because makeup is a trend. Cosmetic is a trend. Tomorrow, glitters are in. Next year, glitters are no. So,
excellent. I think that's a very fantastic point that you raised, which is so important. The life of your business and your approach to it. Because when we talk about passion to portfolio, if you notice, we've talked about what they enjoy doing. But like she said, we want to go into a portfolio mode. We want to go into a place whereby we can create a business that can start to create and have a life of its own. The question is, does every business have to be like that? And can every business serve you for over the years? And that's something that I know we have a couple of questions coming through, but I'll take yours.
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Nkem. So Pastor Nika did mention something about the struggles that most business owners, especially when you just started. And I just started at an event and wedding decor business.
Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you. I guess one of my struggles would be getting the ideal client, and secondly would be self-promote, because sometimes I kind of feel intimidated by seeing other people building relationships with planners or seeing event designers, and I don't have that relationship. I cannot really talk about my business in as much as I'm passionate about it. So it's I'm doubting myself, but I know that I can do this. So, how can you overcome that, in terms of self-promoting yourself, building relationship with even other event designers? Because it's also a competition, in as much as we're also building relationship with other designers and also planners. It's also a competition for me because they're looking for clients. I'm also looking for clients.
Yeah.
And I guess, I know Sheila did touch about marketing and whatnot, but just in terms of building that relationship, because I think sometimes it's required, especially when you're in the wedding industry, and I think the other one is how you're in the wedding industry. How do you get your ideal client? How do you position yourself so that people can see and know you?
Okay. I think those are two questions. So the first one is, how do you develop those relationships to help you promote? In certain businesses, for example, can you even say you can be mentored because you're a competitor to that business? So really, when you want to build networks, is it easier for you to build a network with somebody that knows that you're a potential competitor? So when we use those phrases, how does that really work? Or is it better to look at businesses that complement each other instead of direct? Have you guys had any experience of having to engage with a business in your industry that was bigger than you, and you were able to use it to your advantage?
So I do mentor, and I mentor event planners.
Okay.
People that are starting out in the business, people that currently own event planning businesses, but they just need some direction. And so I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong in coming to someone that is in your industry. Maybe someone that you admire, maybe someone that you're like, you know what, this person is doing a good job, I want to learn from them. And that's one thing I would say. When I started out, I actually went to someone to learn from them. So aside from taking classes, I reached out to one or two event planners and I said, I want to start out in this thing. Do you mind if I come to some of your events to come and work with you? Not paid. I don't want you to pay me, but I want to learn. Because there's so much theory I learned in class, but I'm like, how am I going to do this? So I needed to be in there. I needed to see what was happening. I needed to see a bride break down and see do I have time for this? I needed to really know if this is what I wanted to do. So I think if you also give yourself the opportunity to learn from those people. Not everyone might be open to it, but if you reach out to 5 people, you might get one person that says, sure, come on out. And I think when you get those opportunities, eat it up. Learn everything you can learn. And I don't think you're coming to the person and with the disguise that, oh, you know, I'm not really, if you own a business, I own a business is what I do. I would love to, even if you're in the same state, same area, like I said, we can all thrive. And I think that anyone who is afraid of someone else being better than them, it's not the right place to be. I think you want to learn from someone who is willing to teach you everything they know, because they know that you can thrive. And first time I did a workshop, I told my students that I want someone to call me and someone to call you and actually have a moment where they say, you know what, I'll rather hire that person. I want you to learn and be that good where they can feel like they want to hire you. So I think you want to just, and you know, when you're looking for someone to learn from, someone that you know you love what they do, you want to do what they do, and reach out to them. Sometimes you might get a no, sometimes they might be busy, but be persistent, reach out to them. I think also going for networking events is important. So whatever industry that you're in, go to other events that are related. I was very afraid. I'm not a shy person, but I'm also not an outgoing person. So when I started out, it's scary. You're like in this room of all these people that have been doing this and they're killing it. But I think just go for events. If you're into hair, go to a bunch of hair shows. Just go there, just hang out, just speak to other people. The more you allow yourself to do that, the more you get more comfortable in your gift, the more you get more comfortable in what it is that you want to do. So I think that would be my answer to that initial question. I think the second one was... Thank you.
Was the second question, Karen?
What was the second question? How do you get your ideal client? That's a fantastic question, girl. So, I mean, there's a whole thing on this. It's more. I would say a few things. What I can say right now, but I think before you get your ideal client, you have to know who your ideal client is. You have to ask yourself. I went for a conference and I took an ideal client as a worksheet. And it actually asks you questions about who is that ideal client. In fact, I got to name my ideal client. My ideal client's name is Nini. And I wouldn't tell you how it's spelled, but it's Nini. And so pretty much it's a worksheet, and I'm sure you can look this up online, but you have to know who your ideal client is before you can market to them, before you can decide that, okay, how do I market to someone I don't even know? How do I know what this person likes? So it's a process where you develop and you say, okay, my ideal client is in the sunny city of Washington, D.C. My ideal client's name is Nini. What does Nini like to do in her spare time? What pages does Nini follow? Does she follow Oprah, or does she follow, what's that page that shows ratchet stuff all the time? Shade Room, yes. Okay, does she follow the Shade Room? What does she like to do in her spare time? What does Nini read on a daily basis? What does she read? What does she like to watch? What kind of clothes does Nini wear? Because you want to know your ideal client in and out. If your ideal client is a man, or if it's a couple, you want to know who that person is. You want to define them. So everything that you put out there as far as marketing, you're marketing to that person. Anybody else can love your stuff, but you know who that person is. So there are times where online, and my team, they get on me for this because they're like, Shley, we have to go through you before we post. I'm like, before you post something, ask yourself, is Nini gonna like this? Is this gonna even speak to her? She's gonna be like, this is so whack. And so if Nini doesn't like it, then I'm not posting it. Because your ideal client, you have to be able to market to the person that you know. So you have to define that person for yourself. And there are different things online that you can find about that, defining who your ideal client is. And that way you'll be able to market to that person. That way you'll be able to attract that person, because that person's gonna see something. Somebody else might look at your page and be like, I wonder why she's posting pictures of her food. But Nini might love food. Nini might be so attracted to food. Nini might want to know what you are doing when you're not doing flowers, or when you're not doing whatever it is that you're doing. So take time to really identify that person. And the more you know that person, make that person your friend. The more you know that person in your mind, the more you will market to that person. And that person will be attracted to your business.
Very good. That's a lot of good stuff there. And can I just say that although we have creatives here, your business idea could be service-oriented. So I want us to know that, that the approach and the critical part of our thinking is really dare to dream. You might decide that, I don't care if there are multiple real estate. I believe that there's still room for a level of real estate business, or a class of people that want to find, certain unique caregivers. I remember when there was this, I can't remember, it made its rounds around, maybe Nigerian, where somebody put in an ad in the UK, and I think it was real, that said, we're looking for a nanny Remember that ad that went all over the place? Most of us saw it in the morning. It was an ad in a British paper. Said looking for a British nanny to teach maybe 5 and 2-year-olds English and music and the rest of it. Anyway, long story short, nanny was going to get like £60,000. Nanny was going to get a car and she'll be assigned with the car and driver to take them. Nanny was going to get 5 weeks paid holiday. And nanny was going to be working in Nigeria. Yeah, exactly. So it was a Nigerian family that needed a British nanny to take care of their kids. And this is a proper ad. It was not, so they were, I don't know if they're looking for Nini, but they were definitely looking for, and all of a sudden, most of us were like, well, actually, I could do nanny for 1 year and live in Nigeria. But it's amazing, that was somebody that they profiled them. And it wasn't a fake, it wasn't a joke. Because that was a family that could afford to pay that because they can afford to have their kids live in the UK. But because the children were still younger, they wanted to bring a British person to start, as you know what I mean? So I just wanted to bring the fact that, there are so many opportunities and ideas. Irene, for your niche market, because I don't think you said so, who is interested in food carving? Who would you describe as someone who is interested in food carving as a client?
Can I respond
Yes.
something to what you said? I mean, for people who are not like non-event planners, and if you feel like, you want to reach out to certain people, but you don't have the words for how to, describe your brand and stuff. What I did was at some point I felt like, my fellow Nigerians sometimes would think that, my carvings were too expensive or something. So I'm like, I'm going to look for a different market. I'm going to start marketing towards, business people so that I can come to their events, to their office and do a fruit carving platter for their clients. Like I wanted to start marketing, towards people that I knew that they would appreciate my art without, pricing me down, So I would say, get amazing pictures. At some point, like I'll go to my networking events and people would say, oh, the lady with the iPad, because that's all I did. You ask me what I do theme-inspired fruit carvings. This is really hard for me to explain in words, but let me show you my iPad. And I'll start scrolling picture. Oh, wow, this is amazing. So people literally started calling me, that's the lady with the art, the iPad.
Can I jump in? So how did you get into, because I remember you got on TV.
Oh, for food, yeah.
Yes. So how did you get, and I just said that because when we talk about profiling, how some businesses can go, because that's such a unique area. Talking about taking that iPad around, what was the journey to getting on Food Network?
To be honest, I watch Food Network a lot, but I didn't apply for it. I never thought that I would be on Food Network. They called me. I honestly thought it was fake when the call came in. It was, my husband did not go to work. My nanny was downstairs with my kid, and I got a call. I had a 3-month-old then, and before that, I had gone through a lot with birth and all those stuff. So when that call came, I was like, "Oh, you're funny, Food Network, yeah, hi, Irene." On Cake Wars Christmas, like that's like one of their big events. And after she hung up the phone, I had to go and look at her LinkedIn to make sure that this is a legit person before I get excited. So to be honest, but one thing that I know, she didn't tell me, but she told me, because I kept asking her, how did you find me? Because when I got on the show, that's when I found out that some people had been applying for like 5 years, they never got in the show. So I had to be quiet that, I didn't apply for it. But one thing that one of the producers told me that, I've been watching you, and I like what you do. I like that you empower people. And I'm like, how did you know that? Because I don't put that out there. So people are always watching. Like, you don't know. Post this on social media, what you enjoy. If they like it, or people are going to look at it, and they're going to scroll through. They don't like it. But like she said, Nini will look at it, and she will love it. I have an avatar, too. Her name is Abby. For Omaloa Cosmetics. Yeah, so that made me know that people are always watching. You just don't know when that person, but that's the honest truth. I did not apply for it. And then after that, all these other networks, called me, and some of them I reached out to them, and they were happy to have me come on their show. But if I can share something really, interesting. I remember, like, God prepare you for stuff like that. Because one of the first times I went to Ghana, I wanted to be in the media, and it was a struggle for me because I wanted to push and get on there. But then things started coming up. You know, I got, TV shows here and there. And I remember I spoke with somebody that I knew. They're like, oh, Ghana is easy. You can get on TV in Ghana. But then I knew the struggles that I went through to get there. They're like, Nigeria is even going to be harder. How are you going to do that? Because I was trying to get market my cosmetic line over there, but I kept going with what I was doing. And one of my first interviews here in the US too, I got called to come and do fruit carvings. And I remember my mom telling me that, remember when that person told you that Ghana is easy, but you know the struggles you went through? The US came very easy for you. You didn't have to apply for it. So don't listen to people. When that person told me that, it hurt my feelings a lot because I knew how much I struggled. Like, I was always on, people that I knew that knew celebrities. You have to get me on this show so I can market this. But you don't have to listen to negative people. And then after that show, the first show I got on was ABC News, News Channel 8, and I got called on Food Network and so many others, but it always brings me back to when that person said that. I almost gave up. It hurt so much, because I'm like, what does she mean? And to top things off, I got featured in different TV channels in Nigeria that I didn't even know about. That's how you know how amazing God is. Because the person said, Nigeria's going to be so tough. Like, you can't do it. But God put me on channels in Nigeria that I didn't even know of. Some of the shows I did here in the U.S. and was played in Nigeria. Or I did my own event and TV people came and then they showed it. And then I got to do U.S. without paying a dime. Like, they wanted me on.
Amen.
So
Fantastic. That's a great testimony right there. Everything starts with taking a step. And I wanted us to talk about that because I realized that sometimes your product is not always readily, it's not for everybody. Sometimes you have a very, you have to target that niche market that you have. But when you dare to dream, and I'm going to keep saying that, a lot of none of these stories could come until they took the first step. There was a question that came on the app that says, how do you deal with disappointments in meeting your business goals? Somebody else said, how do you prevent burnout when maintaining a job, running a business, and serving in other areas? So we can see that there's a theme, and I'll let you guys speak to it and take one or two more questions. But I just wanted to say that, this is where, Les Brown used to say something. It talks about, sometimes in life when you want to go for a goal, when you want to go for a vision, sometimes you will have things that will come against you. You will have storms, you will have limitations, you will hear people's voices, you have people say you can't do this, or people that you will go back to and they'll close the doors, or people that say, sure, let's work on this together. You get there and they disappoint you. He said, but when every single thing around you falls and it doesn't happen or it's too hard, he said, I like the way he said, ladies and gentlemen, you do it hard. You do it hard. In other words, for us to have successful businesses, we've got to just press through certain barriers. It's almost as if you will get a push, and the ability to press through hard is what actually enables us, to come out on the other side. I'll take your question quickly before I ask one question.
Hi, my name is Adeshola. So I had two questions. The first one was, how do you know that like a plan or a goal or dream of yours is like approved by God? Like, for example, like growing up, like around high school, me and my two friends, we were like in a dance group and we did very well, but we stopped dancing mainly, I guess I had a big part to play in it because like I always felt guilty. I always used to feel like, oh, what I'm doing is not of God because it wasn't Christian music. And apart from that is like I do hair, and like last year I learned how to do my own nails, certain things like that. But it's like also growing up I used to listen to like a lot of pastors, women and men. It's like in church, some churches you hear like, oh, doing weave is a sin, in the spiritual realm is this, that, and the third. Makeup is this because Jezebel, use makeup. And it's like those things, because like I have a big fear of disappointing God, like those things like set me back. I'm just like, maybe I shouldn't do it. Like, and now it's like I have a lot of goals and a lot of plans to use my talent. Like, there are some times where people will come and ask me to make choreography for them, but I'll think twice because I'm thinking, oh, God is not going to approve of that because it's not Christian music, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's like, how do you know that those things are like from God or of God? And then my second question for the panel was, how do you in your business, makeup and wedding planning and other things, like how do you glorify God through it? Even though like in the regular eye, like somebody who's probably not a Christian would just look like, oh, she just does makeup, or oh, she's just a wedding planner. It's like,
Thank you. So I think, so basically, thank you so much. And I don't know who would want to answer that question, but what do you do when you feel you have a business idea and it's conflicting with what you feel God wants you to do? But maybe we can take it from maybe what you are hearing, other people's perception of what that is. How do you find that voice that lets you know that you're on the right path? Yeah.
I think if God is in, your business, you have sleepless nights. I mean, sometimes I tell people when I get into my insomnia mode, that's when I know that this action, like, I have to take it. I have to do it now. God does not have to, like, necessarily tell you go and do it. But at that point, you kind of have to be very, I don't know, maybe self-conscious of everything that happens to you, because he could probably be using somebody else to tell you, do this, go forward, do that. And what you're probably doing might not, it might not seem godly or whatever, but maybe God is going to use you to change that industry. Like for me, like I said, I love to empower people. Tell them you have to do this. If this is your dream, go for it, do that. Like, I'll sit there and talk to you. But then I never did that on social media. I never did that publicly. I always, because I felt like, oh, does that seem like I'm bragging? But I had a brand strategist. I was like, no, you have to share that with the world. You have to share that using your cosmetics. So now, like, our tagline is elevating your life and your looks from basic to bold.
Nice
we want to empower people. So I'm using that gift that I have with the stuff that I love doing, what I have in, with the stuff that I like doing outwards, and putting it all together.
Good.
So if you're dancing or whatever, like, let that people around you know that, you're a child of God. Like, just constantly, like, what you speak out, can differentiate you, and it could change that industry. So that's...
Thank you. That's a very good point, and I like that. I like that tagline for your business. Beautiful.
So what I was going to say is that sometimes as Christians, the guilt is real. You feel like if I'm not, and I think sometimes it comes to a place, depending on how you grew up, where you feel like if you're not in ministry, if you're not a pastor, if you're not a singer that is singing gospel music, shout out to Tori Kelly, who's not singing gospel music, but she's a Christian. If you're not necessarily doing something that is directly related to ministry, then you're not fulfilling God's purpose. And I believe that God is a very diverse God, and he didn't necessarily want everyone in the world to be a pastor. There is a book I read, and if I would recommend for you guys to read it, it's called Call to Create. And that book it's an amazing book. You have to read it, Audible, something. Just read it. And the book talks about the fact that God in himself, he was the first entrepreneur. He is a creator. He is the creative. And the fact that everything that comes out of him is that. And so because we are his children, we are reflecting that part of him, that he is a creative, so we are creative. But it doesn't necessarily mean I could be a businessman, I could own a business and be a child of God, and I don't necessarily have to preach at my job, but everything that I do reflects the character of who he is. And so that's what's important, just reflecting the character of who God is. So at my job, would people say that I'm a truthful person because things that I do are not necessarily in line with what other people do? So you can reflect who he is without you necessarily preaching to someone, without you necessarily being a pastor. So I think that sometimes it's a guilt thing because of the way that we are raised, and I think you need to break out of that. If you have the opportunity, I mean, of course, at my job, I'm a wedding planner. I don't necessarily say I'm a Christian wedding planner, but if I do have the opportunity to speak with someone about God, if someone is going through something in their life at that point, I've planned weddings for Muslims too, but if they're going through something in their life that I could speak to, I would. But I think the fact is I'm a child of God. And that's all that it is. And I reflect his character in everything that I do. So the book is really good because it helps break down some of those things that we have in our minds. And it helps you realize that you are creative because God is creative, and you will reflect his character in everything that you do, whether it is Christian or non-Christian.
Thank you. Brilliant. Isn't that, did we not pick up a theme with what we talked about earlier on? About starting to look at a lot of what our motivation is from the character, from showing that creative side to us. We're going to be able to take probably just one more question before we round up this session. Yeah, okay, we'll take two. Okay, we'll take just two more. Okay, but it's going to be okay. We have to keep it short because we have just a few more minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Kende. My question is a little weird, but I figured I'd ask it. Is it possible to have a passion that you can't profit off of? This session is called Passion to Portfolio. In other words, marketing your passion or something that you're good at. Is it possible that you have a passion that shouldn't be marketed or shouldn't be made into profit, so to speak? And I'll use myself as an example. I love to bake. It's something that I do. I'm like the go-to person, and I've started actually with event planning. I took a couple of courses online when I came out of college, but it didn't pan out. So I decided to go to culinary school. I was talked out of it because my parents said, "How are you going from accounting to culinary school?" Went for a master's instead, but found myself back in food, in the food industry, so to speak. But I've struggled with making a hedge, like forging a path, in it. But I love to do it. Right. I could do it in my sleep. I could be in the kitchen all day. It's something that I just love. It's who I am. But is it possible that that's not, is it possible to have something that's shouldn't be marketed or shouldn't, I'm not sure if that makes sense. Do you understand? Is it something that, it's supposed to go a different direction? It's not meant to be marketed, or it's not meant to be, exactly. It's not meant to be a money-making venture, so to speak, but it's supposed to, is it go a different route with it? Does that make sense?
I think it does. In other words, a passion that you have, for example, that might be used to support a bigger message. So maybe if you're baking and you love to do that, I'm just giving an example, but could you connect it with baking not to sell and to market that you're a baker, but baking for people that would connect you. So providing that as a service to some people, but giving you access to care for those people or to do something for them.
When we talk about passion, it's always like, when you're passionate, something
yes.
that you go into making money off of. And so people, that might not need necessarily be
yes.
the path you should take.
Yeah, I think it means, yes, I agree with you. From your passion does not mean you have to start a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there's that underlining that we're all passionate. Remember in the beginning, and that's a good point, we talked about the difference between your passion and your purpose. So you might be passionate about something, doesn't mean that's your purpose. But you could be passionate, because you could be passionate about something but completely love your career. You could be a stockbroker, for example, but at the same time you love to do it. Like mine, we always talk about, what's the lady's name, that fantastic Serena Williams, that loves to play tennis, but when she wanted to start a business, she started that business, but what she loved to do is to do manicures and pedicures. Isn't that strange? That's what she was really passionate about. But that's not what she does. She goes to play tennis and makes millions on a game. So yes, I do agree with you that not every passion is going to lead to a portfolio of a business. But as long as you have room to express it and to make a difference, because I think that's what's key. That's what we're picking up, that we all have a message, we all have something to give to other people, and being able to take that and use it. You could be using it for your family to make them feel better, but if you want to turn it into a business, then that's something else that you must be clear that that's what you want to do with it. But thank you very much. That's a good point. Yes.
Can I say something?
Yes,
With
please.
me, honestly, I didn't think that I'll be doing fruit carvings. I was literally just doing it for fun. I would do it for family events. I would volunteer to do it for somebody's wedding. Hey, can I please do your fruit? But at some point I was like, I need that money. And that's when I turned it into business. But if I did not, if I had something else that I enjoyed doing, or if I came up with, whatever I thought that I would invent and start that business with, I probably would still do that for fun,
Yes.
But you have to decide if you want to make money or not.
Good, thank you. We'll take, I think that's the last comment.
Thank you. My name is Pamela.
Hi.
Great afternoon. I'm here to be corrected. I'm just going to put that right on the table because I already know I'm wrong. I already know that I'm full disclosure. I know that I was meant to coach. I know that I was meant to write books. I know that I was meant to speak and change lives. I know this. I've known it since I was a child. However, I have a very good government job that pays me a lot of money with excellent benefits. So what I'm struggling with at this point in my life, my husband is the guy that was on the drums, so I have a creative man in my house, and my stability allows him to go conquer the world and deal with our child. And I'm trying not to cry. I have parents in Florida that I help support. I've deferred, not God, not anyone else. I've deferred my dreams for the people I love, but I can't anymore. I can't. I wake up, I go to bed, and I'm thinking about all the people I'm not helping, and I can't do it anymore. So how do I check that? How do I stop loving my family so much and start loving the purpose that God has on my life and those people who need me? Because I know they need me. I see them in my dreams. I know that there are lives that I'm meant to change. I know it. I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't know how God is gonna do it, but he's bringing me destiny helpers. I'm a strategic planner in the federal government. They paid for me to go get coaching classes to be a coach. That has nothing to do with my job, but God is just opening doors. And so I need to get out of my own. I'm guilty. I did that. But how do I change it? Because I can't go another year without those people having me do what God put me here to do. So how do I change it?
Amazing, thank you. Amazing when we have these sessions and we have these moments that makes you realize the purpose of why we're here. I'll just take, please bear with us, it came just as I was thinking, okay? You know how you're going, okay? You're going with the tune and then God just stops to let you know at times, this is why we're gathered here. I'll let Mr. Toyin speak, but just before I say that, the interesting thing Pamela knows, I've just met you just after the first session, and you heard what she said. How did I meet her? Her husband said, I hope everything is working out with the mic. I'm sorry yesterday we had so many challenges, but I made sure I got in early today to fix it. And this is my wife. She's a life coach. She should be here. She can do this. She helps people. And while she's saying, I need to help them, the first thing he did was introduce me to his wife and talk about how great and how awesome and the things that she's doing and how God is going to use her. That's the first thing your husband did. And then I said, what's your name? So it's almost as if God let him validate you and validate your season. And that's what he did. And that's the first door that needed to be opened to free you. And I just thank God for that. Where's the Toyin? Okay, please, yes.
I just love what you talked about because I see me in you. And I'm a life coach as well, a speaker and an author. And I have a child with special needs, so I had to put my life on hold 14 years ago. So I've had to readjust, realign. But one thing I want you to understand, and that's the awesome thing about God, is no matter whatever happens in life, whether we make a mistake or things out of our control, we can't follow the plan we think. He has a way of working it all in. He takes even our mess and he gives us beautiful ashes. You are getting trained as a coach for free. I trained with the John Maxwell team. It's $5,000. You're getting that for free. So you might think that you've been wasting these years and just spinning your wheels. But God has been positioning you and putting things together. You have been with a network of people you would not have had access to any other way. All this training, this strategic training, all the stuff, you're going to use it. It's part of the plan. So there have been times that I call my sister and I'm just hyperventilating on the phone because it's like, it's so real, I can taste it. But because of where I am right now, I have to self-pedal some things. I have to let everyone else go first. But I just want you to know that there is a time when it will be time. And when it will be time, everything will fall in place. Everything that you will now realize, it will make sense. Everything you've been through, everything has been training you for this time. So it's like when the bird is set free to fly, It has tested its wings. You know your limitations. You know the things you need, the support you need in place. Because all this is training. So don't see it as wasted time. Because the enemy has that ability to know sometimes that it's getting close. So when he sees it's getting close, he applies the pressure. So it becomes premature. You know what happens when a child is premature? It needs more help, and sometimes it does not survive. So you're about to get there. You can taste it. You can see it. You can feel it. But don't go ahead of him.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. And I think, when God does these things, you just sit back and you look. I sent her a message on maybe Thursday. I said, I don't know how. I've been saying I'm going to invite you to the conference. I forgot. She said, woo, weekend busy. I'll try and make it. I wasn't even sure she'll make it. She just heard. We just hadn't connected, and God brought the right person. And Pamela, as you were speaking, I just wanted to remind you, when you were speaking as well, and I know it's for both of you really, because you're both called to destinies, and that's a spiritual connection right there. Very clear one. And all I could just remember was God reminding me that he said to Moses, I have heard the cry of the people. You're hearing the cry, but he hears the cry first of all. And when God wants to do certain things, I know this may not sound as correct. God is more interested in the leader than the followers. At the end of 40 years, a promise had come. But because Moses wasn't ready, this would take matured years. God was willing to leave the people for 40 more years for the right person to get ready. Because if Moses wasn't ready, the same people almost destroyed him. Because people, when they are in a place of need, don't always know how to best manage it. You cannot get any form of security or validation of your ministry from them. It must come from God. Because if you are not who God wants you to be, when the people that need you and he sends you to will come, they can tear you apart. So God needs to make sure that you are strong, you are firm, but he also needs to kill any ambition or strength or ability inside of you. So you've had to serve and serve and serve so that when the time comes for you to rise, you're soaring on his level. But everything you need to do, because you will have people and women who you have to have gone through this to coach them. So your coaching is people say life coach, but the life is not really that strong. The life is packaging. What would make you stand out is that you did life. Like Satoyin, she did. I've seen her do life. I know her stories. And so when you give to people, you're not just a life coach, you are a life coach. You are giving from your life into their life. And that's that strength. And what you feel is dare to dream. Because the word the Lord gave us, he said a lot of women are going to come into this place pregnant. Pregnant with destiny. This conference is like we're in a birthing room. So we've been feeling the pangs. We may not understand what it is, but it's coming out of us. But we've got to bear down and push. But sometimes you may just be 2 centimeters dilated, and And what she is saying is you might just need another 3 months. It might be just the second half of next year they're about to launch out. But sometimes you must understand this is still the birthing. I'm going into 5 centimeters and 6 and 10, and then you bring forth. And the Lord will give you the strength to bring forth. And every one of us to birth our dreams by God's grace. I don't know how I can thank these panelists. They've spoken from their hearts. They've spoken from reality. Can you hear me thank Chile of Ray Affairs? How did you call it? RAE Affairs. I always call it Ray Affairs. And it's called Relax and Enjoy. And I can't forget it because, she talked about he was my boyfriend when I started the business. He was my boyfriend. And on the days when he was giving his vows, he says, I vow to give you a life where you can relax and enjoy. I can't forget that. And I'd like to thank Irene, who is so easy. As you can see, what I love about her is very simple lady. She's not I'm a structured business. As you can see her, she just started off taking one step. I like this. I do it. I get paid. I build up on it. And all of a sudden, I'm on TV and I just see on ABC TV, Food Network, whoa. Some of Hollywood and Nollywood, not Hollywood, well, that's what, you're coming to Hollywood then. Nollywood and all of the rest of those people promoting her makeup brand. And this woman with her first child just about to start school properly, but taking that step of faith. So for everyone who, we know the struggle is real, the hustle is real, but we're going to do what? We're going to do it hard because we dare to dream. So for everyone who said, I'm about to start, and you raised up your hand, 2019, let's step out in faith. This EPR Women's Network, every month next year, we have webinars. We have webinars on starting your business. We have webinars on branding, where we're going to actually have tools. Like, we would love to have Shile come over and bring the tools she used for her avatar, so that all of us can create Sammy and Jojo and Benny and know who our client profile is, so we can target them. These are practical tools. We can only do so much, but we're going to run a webinar on that, and I officially would have you, lead on that. So we'll look for a way to slot that in and take that and bring everyone on how to do that. But we're going to get ready for our next session right now. We have our speakers ready to go. I'm excited for this last session. You don't want to miss it because, it's going to be really, really amazing. So I think we have a bit of a tea break while we can just stretch our legs and get ready, and then we'll go with the panelists to do some interviews. Thank you so much. Please give them a round of applause.